Okay, team, it's time to get down and dirty. So this was released yesterday on the PlayStation Blog. I'm assuming that this is Sid Schumann. No, it's Tim Turi. An interview with From Software's Hidetaka Miyazaki. I have been honored to have interviewed Miyazaki once in my lifetime. Very honored. Really cool. Really cool times. But let's see what he has to say. The Souls creator discusses open world design, accessibility, It Takes Two, and more. About 13 years ago, Demon's Souls launched on PlayStation 3. Intriguing, challenging, and captivating players, directed by From Software's Hidetaka Miyazaki, the action RPG specialized in deliberate combat, unpredictable environments, and mysterious storytelling. From Software has continued to evolve its formula from Dark Souls to Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, inspiring throngs of fellow game makers in the process. This is actually, for those of you that are not aware, look, Demon's Souls is one of the reasons why I bought the PlayStation 3. But on top of it, Demon's Souls and then Dark Souls after it, they came at a point in which a majority of video games in the industry, at least from my experience, had almost no challenge whatsoever. Like, the requirement for you to beat games back in those days were like, can you press the X button? Yes? Okay. You can win the video game. You can win the video game. And so the fact that it came around that time and it changed the industry for the better because a lot more people started creating more challenging experiences, it was just friggin' awesome. It was just friggin' awesome. Were you Globku's cameraman? Yeah, sure. Hidetaka Miyazaki From Software's latest creation, Elden Ring, innovates on the core Souls formula in exciting ways. The forlorn open world of the Lands Between, isn't it like Lands Betwixt? No, Lands Betwixt is Dark Souls 2. I'm just like, ugh. Invites players to explore in any direction. A summonable mount allows for faster, more vertical traversal. Famed author George R. R. Martin has even partnered with From Software to dream up the fantasy world players will delve into. It hits PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 February 25th. Lucky for us, Miyazaki-san took some time away from Elden Ring's final stretch to chat about the game itself, his thoughts on accessibility and artistic collaboration, and even a bit about his time with the co-op fun of It Takes Two. Congratulations on the warm reception to Elden Ring's closed network test, with reaction from fans and press stood out the team most following this extensive hands-on test. Thank you. Overall, we saw some relatively good reactions from the network test, which is nice. I tend to look at the raw user reactions. That can be a little scary. I typically get filtered feedback that comes down through the various sources on the team, both on our side and the publisher side, so I get to look from a more holistic view. As to what was particularly valuable, we mostly found things that we tend to take for granted as game developers and might consider obvious. Stuff that the users found difficult to figure out or didn't gel with them immediately were helpful pieces of feedback, for instance. Regarding the new summon pool mechanic, users can place their sign and have them collected into a group of available players to summon. Things like this weren't immediately apparent to players, so this sort of feedback was beneficial in fine-tuning these features. Not only that, one of the things that was not intuitive is that, I don't know why, but it seems that most players, myself included, because I talked with a lot of players that were playing the closed beta, right? And most of us, we assumed when we go near a summoning pool that it would activate. We didn't think that we would have to individually activate each and every summoning pool. Otherwise, they don't work. I don't know if that's going to be the case in the final game, but that was definitely one of the things that was kind of weird. And then I tested with Peeve, like, how it would work if, say, I was registered to a certain summoning pool and he was trying to summon me all the way across on the other side of the map, which, if I remember correctly, it actually worked. But we did a lot of testing about that stuff to figure out how it actually worked in terms of, like, invasions and all that, too, which was some fun times. Some really fun times.
If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
Cincy Boiler 41.
Hope you're having a great weekend.
Thank you very much for being gross incandescent for 17 months. Tip of the hat. Appreciate the support. Thank you. Thank you very much. What's one element about Elden Ring that you want to ensure isn't overlooked by fans/press before the game launches? There's not one specific area from the network test that players overlooked or a part of the game that we want to push on them. Mainly, we want players to feel the importance of the level of freedom that we're focusing on this time. We want them to enjoy the game at their own way and feel liberated in this new open world that they can explore at their own pace. If possible, we want players to try and steer clear of spoilers or guides and go in with a completely fresh, open mind and enjoy their original sense of adventure. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, Miyazaki. Somebody go and spread this fucking gospel, please. Somebody spread the... Please! Please! Please make it so! Please! Somebody go and spread this as gospel. For the love of all that is holy. I cannot stress how often I tell people, because like everybody, when they're thinking about playing a Souls game, their biggest concern is like, which guide am I going to watch? Which walkthrough am I going to watch? Which thing am I going to... And as a content creator, so this goes completely against the content that I make, you know, right? As a content creator, the thing that I have to tell you is like, don't watch anything. Don't even watch the trailers. I'll tell you right now, if I was not making content for the game, I wouldn't watch the trailers. I wouldn't see the news. The only thing that I would look up, release date. When can I get it into my filthy, grubby paws? That's the only thing that, you know, I want. And what you say right there, Kyle, what if I miss something? I paid, so I want to see everything. You're right. So what you do is you play through the game once, and then after you finish, then you go and you find out what you've missed. Because I always miss something in Souls games as well. Like, to give you guys an idea, I played through the entirety of Bloodborne and didn't go to Canehurst. Like, if you go watch my Bloodborne blind playthrough, you'll notice Canehurst's not there. Canehurst is not there. I didn't go. I have to do like Bloodborne playthrough addendum where I go and I play through Canehurst on a different character. But I'm so happy that they say this because I've always said this is the best way to play a Souls game. Okay, I'm not going to impose like people do whatever the fuck you want. You want to go watch a video, go watch it. You want to cheat in your game. You want to ruin the experience. Do whatever you want. It's your video game. I don't care. But if you ask me, my advice that I always give to people is steer clear of spoilers, steer clear of guides, steer clear of literally everything. Just go in fresh, open mind, and enjoy the sense of adventure. And let me just really nail this down. Let me just nail this down, okay? There's never a better playthrough or a playthrough where a better one is weird because sometimes after you can still have a lot of fun, so you can have better playthroughs afterwards. But it's like there's something about your first blind playthrough of a Souls game that is magical. Like maybe it's not your best playthrough because maybe it's not the one where you have the most fun, but it is the one where you experience the most mystery. And you can't put a value on that. I know that people are like, oh, you're just romanticizing this whole thing. It's the way that I feel. You can't put a value on that. So avoiding spoilers, going in completely fresh is the best way of doing it, in my opinion. But you do whatever you want, right? Ruri missed so many things. He missed half the ring slot in Dark Souls 2. Why are you like this? Anyway, that's how we'd want to experience the game if we were going into it for the first time, and that's how we hope our players can experience the game comfortably at their own pace with this new sense of wonder. What were your biggest lessons learned in making a sprawling open world games? There were two major challenges we faced developing Elden Ring. The first was expanding upon the level of freedom. more so than our previous games. Elden Ring has a vast world with an open overworld, so we were faced with the ordeal of how we maintain our gameplay style while offering a renewed sense of openness. So with elements like balancing the player's exploration alongside boss fights, the order of progression that players go through the game, and the progression of the events themselves throughout the map, trying to expand on player freedom while balancing all of this was a significant challenge. But we learned many great lessons attempting to achieve this. Another challenge making an open world game is the tempo and pacing of the player's progression, essentially trying to balance how the player paces themselves as they explore this vast open-ended map and how that factors into the scope of freedom and progression they provide. Let me actually turn on a couple of lights here because it's getting kind of dark. So he also learned some valuable lessons while making adjustments in that regard. In what ways have Sekiro Shadows Die Twice impacted your philosophy on developing Elden Ring? I'd have to say that considering Sekiro's development overlapped with Elden Ring's to an extent, there's nothing that directly came from that project, but there were several indirect examples there. For instance, the enemy stance break mechanic in Elden Ring is similar to Sekiro's successful posture system. I mean, that was also kind of present in like Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, if I remember correctly. You break someone and you get to punish them. We even referenced Sekiro's player traversal for the horse mounting system and how you traverse the map in Elden Ring. Also in terms of the narrative and how we tell character stories, Sekiro was a lot more direct than our previous Souls-like titles. Thank you, Windows. I appreciate that. Sorry about that, guys. While we're still maintaining Elden Ring's world with a sense of depth and a fragmented narrative, we're still upholding our storytelling philosophy. There's more focus on human elements and drama than before. We definitely took some inspiration from how Sekiro handled that and tried to apply the good parts to Elden Ring. Is there any advice you have for newcomers coming into Elden Ring, whether that's a suggested class or playstyle? In general, I'd like new players to feel unpressured that they can approach the game at their own pace. I don't want to enforce any playstyle or particular route because I'd like them to experience that sense of freedom. And I realize that while we offer games with a high level of challenge, we design them in a way that feels fulfilling to overcome. But I don't want new players to worry or stress about that difficulty too much. See, this is a key thing that whenever people come around and talk about the argument of difficulty in Souls games, they don't understand this part. They really don't understand. And that is that we offer games with a high level of challenge. We design them in a way that feels fulfilling to overcome. So when somebody says, there's nothing to lose from me playing this game in easy mode, there is. And what you lose is that sense of fulfillment and overcoming the challenge that the game provides to you. This time in Elden Ring, we have many options at the player's disposal to confront challenging situations and use their cunning to outsmart enemies and bosses. They can come back to something later when they're at an impasse so that they can have this freedom of progression and not have to bang their head against the wall over and over. But what if I like banging my head against the wall over and over? You can't stop me, Miyazaki. They can figure out what to do and how to approach it again at their own pace. Like our previous games, we have multiplayer elements, but the barriers to entry have lowered to make it a lot more accessible, so we hope players take full advantage of that. So this is something that I'm a little bit disappointed by. Not that they lowered the barriers to multiplayer, not that at all. I don't care about that. The thing that disappointed me is that one of the things that I've always wanted out of Souls games is to be able to just have someone join you in a session and both of you progress at the same pace. Not like, oh, you defeated the boss, now go back to your world. You know? It's like, I wish there was a way, maybe like a different game mode or something, where you can just have two players permanently playing together through the whole game. That's something that I've always wanted for Souls, to be able to just summon somebody and then just play the game with that person in your world, knowing that after we defeat a boss, we don't have to go through the menus and the stuff to re-summon each other again, or now I summon you into my world and we go kill the exact same boss we just killed, and blah, 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 right? I wish there was a way to play the games like that, right? I think you're absolutely right about that, but I also think it's good for people to be able to play it their way. For example, my fiance cannot play games at all, but an easy mode will allow him to experience it. here's the thing. If your fiance can't play video games, I think that Elden Ring or Dark Souls or whatever is a terrible game for them to start playing. Unless they want to learn how to play them. At which point they can. Because here's the thing. And a lot of people are gonna call me out on this. They're gonna say, oh, you're full of crap and blah, 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 blah. Dark Souls is not even 1/10 as hard as people make it out to be. Not 1/10. I'll say more. Dark Souls is one of the easiest games that I've ever played in my life. You want to talk about hard? Go play fucking Super Mario Brothers on the NES. Now that shit's hard. Mr. Tummy Giggles is different. The story-heavy games, Dark Souls and the like, really has nothing to experience other than playing it. No. There's more to experience besides just playing it. But playing it is like the biggest thing about that game. The gameplay of the game is like the biggest thing, in my opinion. Dark Souls is about perseverance, exactly. Okay, I'm not gonna get back into this discussion. I've made too many videos about this. The issue isn't knowing how to play games. An easy mode allows folks with certain physical limitations to access video games. That is a straw man, and I've talked about this. I've seen quadriplegic players beaten Sekiro playing the game better than I do. I've seen quadriplegic players play the game better than I do. But I don't want to. That's like, I can just go down this tangent and never stop. Because I will tell you right now, that is a hill that I will die on. That is a hill that I will die on. Literally. Well, not literally. Fuck that. Fuck dying. But you guys get the point. Debatedly. As for starting class, it's entirely up to the player. It's an RPG and they can approach it however they like and choose whichever looks the coolest to them, but I would recommend against choosing the naked one known as the Wretch. As before, it's probably the most difficult starting class. How has the ongoing discourse around game difficulty and accessibility impacted the way you've tailored... Oh, here we go. I guess we are going down this tangent. Impacted the way you've tailored and maintained From Software's trademark difficulty in Elden Ring. Was this something your team has been trying to be more mindful of? Yes, we have. It is a valid discussion. I feel like our approach to these games, not just Elden Ring, is to design them to encourage the player to overcome adversity. We don't try to force difficulty or make things hard for the sake of it. We want players to use their cunning, study the game, memorize what's happening, and learn from their mistake. We don't want players to feel like the game is unfairly punishing, but rather that there's a chance to win a difficult encounter and make progress. We understand that Souls-like games are regularly associated with impossible levels of difficulty with high barriers to entry. But we try to design the games to make the cycle of repeatedly trying to overcome these challenges enjoyable in itself. So we hope that with Elden Ring and the new options it provides, it will be a success in that respect. Notice how it's a key part of their design. It's a key part of their design. The game is designed to encourage the players to overcome adversity. If you basically lower the barrier, you're not going to overcome adversity. You're not overcoming adversity. The game is giving it to you for free. And that is the point. The struggle is part of the game design. The struggle is part of the game design. Like this is like whenever people say that, oh, this is clearly not what developers intended, it doesn't get more obvious than this. Miyazaki could have just said, oh yeah, we added an easy mode. He didn't. He specifically says, this is designed to encourage players to overcome adversity. And that's what I've always felt in Souls game. It is designed in a way for you to overcome it. It is designed to be beaten. It's just a matter of practice. You practice and then you beat it. That's the way that it is supposed to be played. In Elden Ring, we've not intentionally tried to lower the game's difficulty, but I think more players will finish it this time. As I mentioned, the player's level of freedom to progress through the world or return to a challenge later are all elements that I feel will help get through the game at a more leisurely pace. So, what is going to happen in Elden Ring is the fact that due to the open world nature of it and all of those dungeons that you have in there, if you come upon a boss that you can't beat, you can just leave and you can go somewhere else. And there are those options in other Souls games, but I think that this one's going to have the most options of all. So you can basically keep grinding and eventually become powerful enough to trounce the thing that is ahead of you. I think that's kind of like what he's saying. He's saying, hey, look, if you just go out, you explore some more, you get some more souls, you level up a little bit more, you upgrade your gear some more, you come back and you beat the boss. Because whereas in Dark Souls, there might be like, okay, there's 3 options to you now of ways to progress. Then eventually at some points, it might be like 5 options to you now of ways to progress. And this one, you're probably going to have like, here's 10 options. Here's 20 options that you have to progress right now. And that is, I think, why he's saying that more players will be able to finish it this time. Also, there isn't a focus on pure action. The player has more agency to dictate their approach against, for example, the field bosses in the overworld and how to utilize stealth in various situations. This was also the case in Sekiro. A lot of the people that talked about the difficulty of Sekiro, a lot of the people that, join in on the discourse and they were just like, oh, this game is just impossibly hard. None of them we're using the things that the game enables you to. It's like you can jump on roofs. You can skip enemies. You can start the battle by backstabbing an enemy. Sometimes even bosses. You can start boss fights with a backstab, which instantly takes 1 life away from the boss. It's like, what else do you want? The game gives you the tools. You're supposed to utilize them. We've even reduced the number of hoops that you have to jump through to enjoy it in multiplayer, so we hope the players embrace that idea of receiving help from others. And we feel like the overall clear rate will go up this time because of these things. Elden Ring seems more lush, bright, inviting, and adventurous than anything I've played by From Software. You mean Bloodborne didn't seem inviting? Or just have one of the amygdala demons on the cathedral, just like staring at you. It's like, hello, how are you doing? I'm just a little Cthulhu demon. What's up? Is this intentional, and does the game ultimately descend into much darker territory overall? Oh, it's going to get darker. Yes, this was intentional, though not necessarily to make the game brighter, but giving it a splash of color was necessary this time, particularly considering Elden Ring has a vast open world to explore. We wanted to give a sense that a golden age has passed through this world and that the player can still see traces of it. Dude, what is it with Miyazaki and us always playing the games after the golden age? Like, we never get to play a Souls game during the golden age. It's always after everything's gone to shit. Like, you play Dark Souls when? After the Age of Fire, on the cusp of the Age of Darkness. You play Dark Souls 3, same thing. You play Bloodborne, same thing. It's like, it's always, it's always after things were really good. That's when we get here. When are we going to get to play a Miyazaki game where it's like, can we play when the things are still good? We're always in the post-apocalypse. Exactly. Like, somebody always fucked up. It's like reality, right? We're living after the baby boomers fucked up the economy. It's the same thing. It's like a Souls game is like a reality, man. We're inheriting the world of the baby boomers, and it's just like we have to deal with all of this economical bullshit, right? And the Souls game's the same thing. Always after things were great. That's when it come in. We wanted to provide the world with a much more painterly look to invoke a high fantasy feeling as a theme. I'll tell you what, very happy about it. I like colorful games to explore. I know that a lot of people these days like dark. Give it to me darker. I remember when people would talk about Diablo and they were just like, make it dark, darker, more dark. And then you think about Diablo 2 and it has all of those colors. Like you have lots of lush greens in Act 3 and you have the reds and yellows of Loot Go Lane and all of this stuff. And people are just like, nah, Diablo's a dark game. It's like, no. People just want like a black screen with blood splattered on it. So yes, I love the fact that there's like vibrant colors in the game. I think that's a good thing. Also, in such a large open world, to have it be dark all the time would be too oppressive. So we're trying to use the broadness of the lands in between to show the appeal of both sides. Yeah, to generate some contrast. You can have these brighter, more colorful moments, but you can also have darker, more intense situations from previous From Software titles. So we hope that players will look forward to that dark side as well. Of course, without light, there is no dark. Is that simple? If there's not a contrast there, if the game's just dark all the time, your eyes filter that shit out. You need the contrast so that you can feel the oppression of the darkness and so that you can feel the relief of when you exit the dungeon and you see the light on the outside and you're like, I'm outside again, thank God. So that's awesome. But yeah, can players expect the fan favorite From Software features like New Game Plus and multiple endings in Elden Ring? Yes, both New Game Plus and multiple endings will be intact in Elden Ring, so there's going to be multiple endings. Previous interviews, you've said that you aim to balance beauty and grotesqueness in boss design. I'm not sure you've achieved that right there. Can you explain how you tackle this using one of the revealed bosses of Elden Ring? What you're referring to is that balance between otherworldliness and a sense of beauty that is most associated with Dark Souls boss characters. In Elden Ring, we wanted to take a slightly different approach because we had these brand new characters that George R.R. Martin wrote alongside the setting and mythos he provided for the world. He created these very heroic and grandiose designs, essentially these demigods from the history of Elden Ring's world. So we wanted to take what he provided us and create a new core for these characters and how we design them. So it's like... George R.R. Martin is like, oh yeah, there's this really cool knight, like very fantastic dude. And Miyazaki's like, right. And then he had 10 arms. And George R.R. Martin goes like, what? No, he was a perfectly normal looking human being. And he's like, right. 10 arms and they wielded weapons. And he he's going to attack the players with all of these arms. It's going to be awesome. And George R.R. Martin is like, you're messed up in the head. You know that, Miyazaki? And he's like, and we're going to have them graft new limbs. And George R.R. Martin just like leaves the room. He's like, y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy. From the boss designs that were revealed so far, the one that I feel is a good match for how we take an heroic concept and twist and misshape it due to the power of the Elden Ring shards is Godric the Grafted. He's an excellent example of this because he encompasses that feeling of sadness and frustration when a lord comes to the end of his reign trying to cling desperately to the power he still has left. In this way, Godric is a great embodiment of that new design approach. Let's change gears a bit. Do you get much time to play games these days, and are there any new releases that grabbed your attention for the past few years? I haven't had a lot of time to play video games lately, but I try to dedicate some time when I can. One game that struck me recently was It Takes Two. Joseph Fares' game. The fuck the Oscars guy. I managed to play that one from start to finish with a friend online in 3 days across 3 sittings, and it was a great time. That game really left an impression on me, so yes, that's one I've managed to finish at least. Video games aside, no, listen, Miyazaki, listen. Buddy, listen. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, Monster Hunter? I got to introduce Monster Hunter to Miyazaki so that I get my Monster Hunter crossover. Listen, Miyazaki and Ryozu, they have to meet, okay? And then they all need to get together with Yoshi P, and then all 3 of them need to brainstorm the best game in existence. You know? Video games aside, I've always loved more analog games like tabletops and things like that, and one I do enjoy is a game called Murder Mystery. Not so much these days, unfortunately. It's challenging to organize remotely and get people together, but yes, these more analog games are ones that I greatly enjoy. What stood out about It Takes Two that makes it unique or memorable for you? It didn't let up throughout, and it never let me get bored. The art and gameplay are different each stage, and the game encourages you to cooperate across its entirety, yet still maintains that artistic element. It is continually fun to play and felt extremely fresh to me right up until the end, which was impressive to me as a fellow creator. Honestly, I didn't have that much interest in it at first, but when I gave it a go with my friend, it finally clicked, And with a small child of my own, the narrative resonated with me, which was most interesting in the end. Oh, he has a kid? I didn't know that. If you could collaborate with another influential creator, oh my God, writer, game developer, movie director, etc., on a From Software game, who would it be? That's a difficult question. Even with the George R.R. Martin collaboration, this is something I didn't even imagine would be possible, and yet here we are. It's not something I've given a great deal of thought to generally, to be honest, but let me see if I can think of something. I don't think I would choose a fellow game creator. No! Ryozu, Yoshi P, come on! Honestly, one of the major appeals of working with George R.R. Martin was how the medium works in such a different style. Games and books are vastly different forms of media after all, so if I were to choose, it would be someone that could provide the same level of stimulation that's impossible for us to achieve as game developers. It would be someone who works in books, arts, music, or anything that gives that impetus and can drive us as fellow creators, but in an entirely different genre. I think that would have to be it. It's very challenging to pinpoint a specific person or studio. Interesting. Is there anything else you wanted to mention for the players? Any other closing thoughts? I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who's following Elden Ring and watching us so closely. We appreciate all the support we've received throughout its development campaign. We designed these games to be challenging yet fulfilling, which will be very much intact in Elden Ring. But as we touched on earlier, we want players to concentrate on the sense of adventure the game provides. We hope players discover the simple joy of exploration when playing and that they can approach it in their own way at their own pace. That's all I hope. Dude, you want to know what's the best thing about this whole interview? I don't know what's the best thing is that it was posted yesterday and there's not a single mention of NFTs, man. Not a single NFT was mentioned, dude. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, feels good. But, yeah, I'm very excited to see what comes out of this, obviously. We've played the network test. It was amazing. I loved it. And yeah, like I said, and it's like, look, I know that this is going to be a little bit of a gatekeepy opinion and that people don't like this opinion. But like on the whole difficulty thing, listen, there's a million games out there. Like, actually, there's more than a million. There's literally millions of games out there that have difficulty options. And let me tell you, the problem with a lot of those games is that the harder difficulties are very poorly balanced. They're balanced in a way that is not fun because enemies have bloated HP. They have bloated damage numbers. This is like 99% of video games that have difficulty options. This is what they do. They crank up the numbers. It's like, okay, this enemy deals more damage. This enemy has bigger health pool, which can be fun, like in a specific event or something. But like for the entirety of the game, it's not. It's not. And so this is one of the reasons why I will always, whenever I talk about difficulty in Souls games, it's like it's important that it is maintained the way that it is because it is one of like a handful of games that do difficulty right, that do challenging stuff right without simply bloating enemies' HP or just making it be a complete fucking slog. It's like it's challenging, but it's fair and it feels good to play. And that's why I say, listen, if you don't want to learn it, if you don't want to, get good, if you don't want to experience that part of the game, then maybe the game is just not for you. I think that's just, maybe that is what it is. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I really don't. And people call this gatekeepy all the time and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just saying, like, the community, I don't think that the Dark Souls community would be as dedicated as it is if the game wasn't the way that it was. If there were difficulty options, you would not have a community that is as tight-knit as this one.